Good afternoon, welcome to Midday Prime. I'm Amritpal Singh. Over the next 1 hour, we bring you all the stories and updates from India and from around the world. We'll update you about the happenings in the world of business and sports, and we'll get you some interesting stories that are making the headlines. But first up, the big news of this hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs a high-level meeting to review the cyclone-related situation in the country. Cyclone GUJARAT is likely to approach South Odisha and North Andhra Pradesh coast on December 4th. Union Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia holds a meeting with states regarding airport screening. Health Minister asks all states to strictly monitor international airports. The United States has identified its first known case of Omicron, discovered in a fully vaccinated patient who traveled to South Africa. Infected person had mild and improving symptoms. He returned to the United States from South Africa on the 22nd of November and tested positive 7 days later. WHO's member states decide to embark on the process of drafting and negotiating a new convention on pandemic prevention, preparedness and response. At least 23 countries from all 6 WHO regions report cases of Omicron. Russian President Vladimir Putin will visit India on the December 6th and will participate in the 21st India-Russia Annual Summit. Will discuss the relations and development of strategic partnership. And the second and the final match between India and New Zealand will be played tomorrow at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. First test match was to a draw. Virat Kohli will return from this test match. And let's begin the show with the big news of the hour. While keeping in mind the new variant of COVID-19, Omicron, the government has intensified preparations to protect against this virus. Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia today held a meeting with the states regarding airport screening. In the meeting, the Health Minister asked all the states to strictly monitor the international airports. Notably, 6 COVID-19 positive cases were reported on Wednesday after screening 3,476 passengers of the 11 flights who returned from South Africa and other high-risk countries. Samples of people found corona infective have been sent for genome sequencing. Along with this, their contact tracing is also being done. And let's now move on to our developing story. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a meeting on the cyclone-related situation in the country today in New Delhi. The meeting comes as weather conditions in Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Odisha and Gujarat continue to deteriorate. The Met Department has already issued several warnings and orange alert in different districts of the states. And for more on that, I'm joined by my colleague Arun Sharma. Arun, tell us what really transpired at this meeting and what is the situation right now?
Well, when we talk about this meeting, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has chaired this important meeting on the pre-cyclonic condition as far as states like Andhra Pradesh and Odisha is concerned. We know this fact that the Met Department primarily has already issued a warning, and of course all the stakeholders primarily related to the rescue operations are on alert as of now. When we talk about the various rescue relief operation team, be it NDRF or be it the other teams primarily. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi primarily was given a presentation as to what is the state's preparation as far as rescue and relief operation is concerned. That's number one. Number two, when the cyclone hits, these coastal areas primarily. So when the evacuation process should be done so that, the lives of people can be saved. We know this fact that in last 2 years, we have seen that during the COVID crisis, India was also facing this cyclonic threat as well, be it states like Odisha, West Bengal, and other parts of the eastern and the southern part of our country. So combating the COVID and of course the cyclone has been very challenging times primarily for a country like India. And now there is a preemptive approach primarily so that if in case cyclone intensifies into various categories, how can the people living in low-lying areas, they can be evacuated so that there is minimal or no loss of lives. On international platform, also Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also, highlighted this point earlier, that how can there be disaster-resilient infrastructure? And we know this fact that, various state governments primarily have moved in that direction to create disaster-resilient infrastructure. But as of now, the focus was also on the fact, Amrit, that how can there be a better coordination between various rescue and relief operation team, various stakeholders that are involved in rescue and relief operations. So how can there be a better coordination during the rescue efforts that are in place? And last but not the least, communication is something that is very much important during the rescue and relief operation. So, and we also know this fact that during the cyclone, when cyclone intensifies, the telephone lines, the electricity lines, the roads primarily, they get damaged. So how can quickly the communication set up primarily as far as telephone lines are concerned, they can be quickly restored. The electricity can be restored quickly. The road, that is the important part of the transportation during the cyclonic or during any kind of natural disaster. How can roads or the highways primarily can quickly return to normalcy? How can the teams be deployed in that direction? So all these measures were discussed, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi did review all the situation as of now, as far as this pre-cyclonic or as far as in states like Andhra and Odisha is concerned. So a complete review was given by various stakeholders to Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
And Arun, were the members of the states, the concerned states also, officials of the concerned states also present in this meeting?
Well, when we talk about the meeting, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held this meeting and a presentation was given by various rescue teams, of course, the SDRF, the NDRF, and what are the preparations, members from the Met Department, of course, the agencies who are forecasting the cyclone. So all these were present. So various aspects of cyclone was presented to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We know this fact that earlier also when cyclone hit in 2019, 2020, West Bengal and Odisha, at that time, Prime Minister Narendra Modi physically, reviewed the situation of the cyclone. This time, this is a preemptive approach primarily. Before the cyclone intensifies, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is constantly in touch with various state officials and of course with various state departments. And the main highlight of this meeting was that how can there be a better coordination during the time of the cyclones within the various agencies, the central agencies, and of course the state agencies that are into the rescue and relief operation. That's number one. How quickly the telephone line, the communication line, the highways, the electricity, that can be restored, because it has been found in last couple of years that communication causes, lack of communication primarily causes hurdles in rescue and relief operation. So how soon these, restoration of telephone lines, the electricity, that can be done, that was the prime topic. And when the evacuation should be done, the prime focus or the prime, the discussion point of this meeting was that how can there be a minimal or no loss of lives because of the cyclone, because cyclones are becoming a regular phenomena because of the climate change that we are witnessing. And we know this fact that this is going to the pattern in future also, but how can there be no loss or minimal loss of lives primarily? That was the future, that was a main focus area of this review meeting. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi did chair this meeting, and of course various representatives from the NDRF and of course the state or the SDRF and of course various agencies into rescue and relief operation, they were present in this meeting.
All right, Arun, we'll leave it there. Many thanks for joining us and giving us that update. And now moving on to our next segment, which we call the National Crime segment. On day 4 of the winter session of Parliament today, ruckus by opposition members continued due to repeated uproar by the opposition. Chairman adjourned the Rajya Sabha till 12 noon first and then till 2 p.m. Opposition and MPs raised slogans on the issue of farmers' debts, rising inflation in Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu told the MPs that they don't want to regret misconduct but insist on revoking the decision of the House taken as per due process stipulated under the rules of the House.
I am deeply pained to know that from media reports of categorical refusal to express any regret for the act of misconduct during the last session led to this round of suspension. Then what is the way forward? You don't want to regret your misconduct but insist on revoking the decision of this August House taken as per the due procedure laid under the rules of the House. Does this amount to upholding the principles of democracy? Leader of the House has stated in his House that revocation of suspension could be considered if the concerned express regret for what was done in the House during the last session. Deputy Chairman has urged both the sides to talk it out and do the needful to move forward to enable normal functioning of the House.
Okay, and for more on that story, I'm joined by my colleague Vikas Sarthi, who's joining us from the Parliament for more updates. Vikas, we heard the chairman say that, the suspended MPs do not wish to apologize for their behavior, yet they want the decision of the House to be revoked. We saw opposition create ruckus on that, and because of that, the House had to be adjourned twice since morning. First of all, what is the update of the House? Is it running right now?
Right, Amrit. Right now, House is running, and there is a discussion going on the dam safety bill. Initially, in what we saw in the morning, that again the opposition MPs started ruckus, and then chairman said that he expressed that he cannot go into public and expressed his anguish. So he is speaking only in the House that the opposition MPs are giving wrong facts. In fact, they are only stating that the 12 MPs have been suspended for no reason, but they are not explaining the circumstances behind their suspension. In fact, chairman also said that he gave an opportunity to these MPs that if they are ready to express apology, their suspension may be revoked, but these MPs were adamant. So after that, on issue of inflation, the opposition wanted a discussion, but again deputy chairman said that it is against the rule, and Congress walked out from the House, and after that the House started proceeding. The House proceedings went on to the normal, and as of now Rajya Sabha is discussing dam safety bill.
And Vikas, what is the argument that the opposition, especially the suspended MPs, are taking? That why do they not wish to express regret or remorse or apologize for the ruckus? What is their point of view?
Amrit, the opposition MPs are saying, first of all, they are arguing that whatever happened was happened in the previous session, so they cannot be punished in this winter session. Apart from it, they said that they were not informed, they were not named before their suspension. They wanted that first of all, whatever action has been taken, that must have been taken in the previous session as well. And on top of that, these MPs feel that they didn't do anything wrong. They are of the view that they were expressing the concerns of farmers. They were raising issues related to farmers, and they were not allowed to speak. Because of that, all that ruckus happened. So first of all, they believe that whatever they done, what they did was the right cause, and apart from it, they are also questioning the procedure.
Okay, and what is your sense, Vikas? What is the way out of this logjam?
Well, Amrit, whatever is happening, we have seen in the past as well that in the first week of every session, opposition MPs try to get as much attention as they can get. So first of all, they want to keep this farmers issue alive from whatever way they can. So unless they seek an apology or they end their protest, they will try to get as much attention on this farmer issue as they can. So from next week onwards, we feel that there must be some kind of consensus among the government and the opposition parties on these proceedings, that House may proceed normally. So certainly in the upcoming week there must be some discussion between the government and the opposition MPs.
All right. And how long is the suspension otherwise?
Well, they have been suspended for the whole winter session. This suspension will remain in force. If they don't apologize, then they will not be able to attend any proceedings for the whole winter session.
All right. And Vikas, can you tell us about what transpired in the lower house?
Right, Amrit, in Lok Sabha there is a discussion going on the COVID situation under Rule 193. Before that, we saw normal proceedings. In fact, there was some reports were tabled before the House, and in Lok Sabha that much ruckus didn't happen, though initially opposition MPs raised slogans there also, and for past few days members from the TRS have been raising issue of again related to farmers. They have been demanding a uniform policy for procurement of paddy. But over and all, the proceedings in Lok Sabha are relatively smooth, and as of now, the House is discussing COVID-19 situation.
All right, Vikas Sarthi, many thanks for joining us and giving us the update on what's on the parliamentary proceedings. And moving on Delhi-NCR air pollution matter, the Supreme Court today told the Commission for Air Quality Management in the National Capital Region and adjoining areas that in an emergency situation you have to work in emergent ways. The Apex Court told the centre will have to come up with some steps. The Solicitor General for the centre told the Supreme Court that the highest functionaries are equally worried about pollution, and there needs to be reworking of power structure. Centre also sought time to talk to the highest authority and come out with additional measures to deal with the air pollution. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has given 24 hours deadline to come up with a serious plan for implementation of the air pollution control measures. Supreme Court said that if they fail to take measures to control pollution, then the court will pass an order. The Apex Court will hear the matter tomorrow. And it's the onset of winters, and the national capital Delhi is under a thick spell of pollution and smog. This morning the AQI was reported at 382, which falls in the very poor category. The sensitive groups have been advised to avoid all physical activities outdoors and move indoors. The asthmatic are advised to keep relief medicine handy, and others to stop outdoor activity in early mornings and after sunset times, and also avoid prolonged or heavy exertion. India has hit the 125 crore vaccination mark as India intensifies the Har Ghar Dastak campaign. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia said that this is another proud moment for every Indian. He said that as India intensifies the Har Ghar Dastak campaign, the country is marching ahead with a new zeal and a new energy in its fight against COVID-19. And an update now on the COVID-19 situation from across the country. The recovery of 8,548 patients in the last 24 hours has increased the cumulative tally of recovered patients since the beginning of the pandemic to 3,40,37,054. Consequently, India's recovery rate stands at 98.35%. Sustained and collaborative efforts by the centre and the states and union territories continue as a trend of less than 50,000 daily new cases that are being reported for 158 consecutive days now. 9,765 new cases were reported in the last 24 hours. India's active caseload presently stands at 99.763. Active cases constitute 0.29% of the country's total positive cases, which is the lowest since March 2020. The testing capacity across the country continues to be expanded. The last 24 hours saw a total of 10,98,611 tests being conducted in India. Has so far conducted over 64.35 crore cumulative tests. While the testing capacity has been enhanced across the country, the weekly positivity rate at 0.85% remains less than 1% for the last 18 days now. The daily positivity rate is reported to be 89%. The daily positivity rate has remained below 2% for the last 59 days and below 3% for 94 consecutive days now. And my colleague Abhishek Jha is joining us more as India hits the 120 crore vaccination mark. Abhishek, so we're saying that 125 crore people have got at least the first dose of vaccine. Given our huge population, put in perspective what it means for the population in terms of total vaccination. If we keep doing this at this rate, by when do we achieve complete vaccination? And also what is the total the number of population which has got both, or the percentage of population which has got fully vaccinated till now?
So Amrit, clearly this is a huge achievement as far as the total vaccination coverage across the country is concerned. A large number of our population, over 40% population, has got fully vaccinated, while almost 80% population has got at least single dose of the vaccine.
How much has got fully vaccinated, Abhishek?
Almost 40%, more than 40%.
40?
Yes, 40%.
Okay.
So it seems that the vaccination drive that the government has launched is going the right direction. Initially, there were some issues, and the apprehensions were raised whether India will be able to entirely vaccinate its population, such a huge population, 130 crore people. But then we have seen that the effort of government and the effort of manufacturers of the vaccine has actually contributed in this direction, where India has been able to be one of the largest vaccinated population metrics in the globe. And with this 125 crore vaccination, that mark that has been achieved today has come in less than a month's time. And even yesterday, it was almost 80 lakh vaccines that were actually administered across the country. So the number of vaccines given to people per day is averaging about 70, 80 lakh, and sometimes it has gone beyond a crore also. It actually tells the hard work and of various stakeholders who have been part of this journey of vaccination, from the ASHA workers or the health workers who are at the ground, from there to the manufacturers and scientists who have been able to enable the manufacturing companies to create vaccine and supply those vaccines in this large amount. It's clearly a huge achievement and a great feat as far as vaccination drive against COVID is concerned.
Okay, and with this new variant of Omicron coming, it is being said that one, detection of course, and for that increasing testing, and secondly, those who are fully vaccinated are at less risk, if not of transmissibility. That means if you may acquire it still, but the possibility of that reduces greatly, and also the severity of it. So what is the sense in the country as far as vaccine hesitancy that we saw earlier?
So Amrit, there are two major challenges that were actually anticipated in past also, with the population that were very cautious in the past that okay, we need to have more vaccines so that we can get all vaccinated. So as the cases of COVID has declined, so the level of panic and cautiousness among the people also, and there is clearly some sort of laxity which is actually not driving people from their home to the vaccination center. So now government is trying to do the drives where people are going, the health workers are going home to home and checking with the population or the families have been fully vaccinated or not, or if not, then they are trying to convince them or persuade them to get in line and get vaccinated. So this was one of the apprehensions that government had in mind, and they are trying to work it out. The second major challenge that government had was whether the efficacy of the vaccines which were actually believed to be 60-70% of, depending on the type of vaccine that are being administered, whether they will be able to counter the surge of new variants that were expected. So the Omicron variant, before that also almost 7-8 different variants, not that much lethal. They had also been in the market and they have also impacted the population. But this Omicron variant, which has clearly got a very high percentage of spread among the people, but the severity of this virus is still under question, whether it is going to be as fatal as we had seen the Delta variant causing havoc not only in India but across the globe. So whether the same sort of havoc and the fatalities will be caused by the Omicron is still being tracked or being gauged. Meanwhile, the government has and the health experts are saying that those people who have been actually fully vaccinated will be clearly far ahead in line to defend themselves against this Omicron virus. Also, it may be that they can get the virus and they can get COVID also with this new strain. But still, the chances of hospitalization and chances of them getting critical due to the virus and its infection are far more lesser than those who are still not vaccinated, and they will be clearly very vulnerable with this new Omicron variant also.
Okay, and Abhishek, lastly, are there regional imbalances between states? Are some states doing really well when it comes to vaccinating people and others lacking behind, or or are they evenly performing?
So, Amit, it was initially that when there was this supply and demand gap, when the center and the total number of manufacturing vaccines were not enough for the people lining up or queuing up at the vaccination center. So that was the time when various states would complain that they are not getting enough vaccine. But as of now, the center had taken the whole charge of supplying vaccine and giving it to states. It's almost free in various states. So now the crisis of supply side has almost gone down, and the second challenge is reaching out to people who have some laxity or apprehension of not getting vaccinated. So as of now, almost all states are doing it to the best of their ability, because they do have that concern that if that Omicron or any new variant gets created or creates some cluster in their own states, the whole life will be thrown out of gear in their respective states, and nobody wants to have those nightmares of last year or this year in the months of May, June, July that we have seen across the country, and how bad it was. So people are trying to be vaccinated. Government are trying to create more awareness, and this whole vaccination drive is reaching out to people. That is the purpose of the government.
All right, Abhishek Jha, many thanks for joining us and giving us that update. And a cyclonic circulation still persists over southeast Arabian Sea, due to which a low pressure area is forming over east central Arabian Sea. Provided the western disturbance over northwest and central India, it continues to rain with strong winds in all the districts of Gujarat. Dang, Valsad, Navsari, Omarpada, Vistaro areas have received more rains. Rains have occurred in other districts like Ahmedabad, Surat, Anand, Sabarkantha, Banaskantha, Vadodara. In the meantime, farmers have been instructed by the government to take precautions in advance. Also, the fishermen have been advised not to go to sea for 3 days.
गुजरात रीजन ओनली वार्निंग दिया गया है हेवी रेनफॉल का। सौराष्ट्र कच्छ के लिए हेवी रेन नहीं रहेगा, लेकिन आइसोलेटेड रेनफॉल एक्टिविटी होने का संभावना है। और एक लो प्रेशर एरिया भी ईस्ट सेंट्रल अरेबियन सी में बनने का संभावना है 1 तारीख तक। तो उसका भी इम्पैक्ट रहेगा। फिशरमैन वार्निंग दिया गया है 1 तारीख, 2 तारीख, 3 तारीख के लिए फिशरमैन को जाना मना है अरेबियन सी में।
Cyclone Javad is likely to approach the South Odisha and North Andhra Pradesh coast on December 4th. In the meantime, Odisha government has reviewed its cyclone preparedness in view of the impending storm Javad. Met Department has also forecast and warned the districts of Andhra Pradesh, namely Visakhapatnam, Srikakulam, Vizianagaram, will face heavy to heavy rain, very heavy rains from the 3rd of December. An orange alert has been issued in these districts. Subsequently, Vijay Nagaram Collector Surya Kumari had conducted a video conference with mandal level officials and agriculture officials and directed that people staying in low-lying areas must be shifted to safer locations. Meanwhile, all holidays for government officials have been cancelled in the district and they are directed to report to offices. And my colleague M. Srinivas now joins me over the phone line to give us a sense of the situation. Srinivas, give us a sense of what is the latest situation and what sort of pre-planning has been put into effect and what sort of preparedness has been put into effect.
Yeah, today early morning CM Jagan Mohan Reddy conducted a review meeting with the state officials, CMO officials and 3 district officials, the Vijayanagaram, Srikakulam and Visakhapatnam. So where he directed all officials to take precautionary measures like setting up rehabilitation centers and checking low-lying areas, flood-prone areas where a special focus needs to be taken so that the state government can reduce the human loss or property losses. And 3 officials, senior IAS officers have been deployed to look after cyclone-related work in these 3 districts. For Vijayanagaram, we have Kantilal Dande. For Srikakulam, we have H. Arun Kumar and Shamal Rao is given Visakhapatnam charge. And the CM has asked them to join and take up the charge immediately there in the location. And as you said, the Vijayanagaram collector has already conducted meeting with the officials and they started the work on rescue relief operations. And already Srikakulam collector also spoke to Doordarshan exclusively, and he said that 3 SDRF teams and 3 NDRF teams allotted to his district, and they will be deployed in low-lying areas to rescue and relief operations. And 12 coastal mandals of Srikakulam and 19 mandals of Srikakulam has been alerted where there is a possibility of heavy to very heavy rain. And technically, according to Srikesh Lecture collector, technically division is going to face a heavy rain with this cyclone.
All right, Srinivas, many thanks for joining us and giving us that update. And fresh snowfall was witnessed in the Spiti Valley of Himachal Pradesh this morning. The upper mountains also received fresh snowfall. The temperature in tribal areas has dipped down to sub-zero levels. A major fire in the engine room of MV Kavarati with 624 passengers and 185 crew on board was reported to Coast Guard Maritime Rescue Coordination Center, Mumbai, by the Lakshadweep Development Corporation Limited. The ship was on its passage to Androth from Kavarati. The fire has been brought under control and Coast Guard ship Samarth is at sea to divert and to render assistance. All passengers stated that they and the crew are safe. Ship is arriving on Androth this morning where 274 passengers will be disembarked offshore. Remaining 350 passengers will be disembarked on board another vessel MV Coral for passage to Kochi. And in midday prime, it's now time for news and updates from the world of business. And to tell us more about what's happening in the world of business, how the markets are doing, I'm joined by my colleague Tanvi Teneja. Tanvi, good afternoon. Tell us what's making news in the world of business.
Good afternoon, Amrit. The domestic stock markets today have made good gains so far on Thursday. So the Sensex at the BSE had jumped 507 points, or 0.9%, to 58,192 in afternoon deals a short while ago. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange had jumped 155 points, 0.9% to 17,324. In the broader market, the BSE Mid-Cap Index had gained 0.5%, while the Small-Cap Index had advanced 0.9%. The top index gainers on the BSE today are HDFC, Power Grid Corporation, Sun Pharma and BPCL, with gains of between 2.4% and 3.6%. The top index losers are ICICI Bank, Axis Bank, Bharti Airtel and Cipla, with losses of between 0.8 and 1.5%. Other key Asian stock markets were mixed on Thursday as markets struggled to find a direction in the absence of solid information about the Omicron variant of the new coronavirus. Also weighing on traders' minds were remarks from US Federal Reserve or Central Bank's chairperson Jeremy Powell, reiterating that he would consider a faster wind down to the bond buying program, which could open door to earlier interest rate hikes. So MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan advanced 0.3%. South Korea's Kospi had jumped 1.6%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index had added 0.4%. But Japan's Nikkei 225 Index had lost 0.7%. And China's Shanghai Composite Index was trading flat. Overnight on Wall Street, key indices closed lower on Wednesday as investors fretted about the latest coronavirus variant and the first evidence of its US arrival, while they also digested Federal Reserve Chair Jeremy Powell's comments on surging inflation. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average had slumped 1.3%, the S&P 500 had dropped 1.2%, and the Nasdaq Composite Index had plunged 1.8%. Back home at the interbank forex market, the rupee had depreciated 16 paise against the dollar in early trade on Thursday, but later in afternoon deals, the rupee had appreciated 2 paise to 74 rupees 93 paise against the US dollar. The IHS Market Purchasing Managers Index PMI for India shot up to a 10-month high in November 2021 due to strong domestic demand. The PMI rose to 57.6 in November 2021 from 55.9 in October, which is the highest since January this year. The manufacturing sector continued its strong expansion in November as sales accelerated and production saw its fastest upturn in 9 months. A PMI above 50 indicates growth, while if it is below 50, it denotes contraction. India's merchandise exports increased for the 12th consecutive month in November 2021, growing 26.49% compared to November 2020 to $29.88 billion, data released by the government showed on Wednesday. The rise in exports was led by engineering goods, petroleum products, chemicals and marine products. According to provisional data released by the government, the country's imports increased 57.18% to $53.15 billion in November. This led to a merchandise trade deficit of $23.27 billion during the month. Gold imports rose 39.67% to $4.2 billion in November. In the first 8 months of the fiscal, exports increased 50.71%, while imports rose 75.39%. And very quickly, let's update you on the global energy market. Global crude oil prices rose on Thursday, recouping the previous day's losses as investors adjusted positions ahead of an OPEC Plus decision over supply policy. Gains were, however, capped amid fears that the Omicron coronavirus variant will hurt fuel demand. So Brent crude rose 85 cents or 1.2% to $69.72 a barrel, having eased 0.5% in the previous session. US crude gained 85 cents or 1.3% to $66.42 a barrel after a 0.9% drop on Wednesday. Further, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, known together as OPEC Plus, will likely decide on Thursday to whether release more oil into the market as previously planned or restrain supply. So that's it from the world of business for now. Let's go back to Amrit for all the news coming in from the rest of the world. Amrit, back to you.
Thank you, Tanvi, for that. And now let's take a look at what's making news across the globe. Russian President Vladimir Putin will pay an official visit to New Delhi on the 6th of December for the 21st India-Russia Annual Summit with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It is expected that during the talks with Prime Minister Modi, the discussions will focus on further development of relations, especially the privileged strategic partnership between the two countries. The leaders will also exchange opinions on the current topics on international agenda, including the joint work within G20, BRICS and the SCO. The meeting between President Putin and Prime Minister Modi is likely to see the presentation of S-400 air defense system to India, which has already started arriving in India in parts. A major boost to India and Russian military ties. The two countries are scheduled to ink the deal on supplying 7.5 lakh AK-203 assault rifles on Monday during the Russian president's visit to New Delhi. The emergence of Omicron variant has understandably captured global attention. WHO's member states decided to embark on the process of drafting and negotiating a new convention agreement on pandemic prevention, preparedness and response. In his opening remarks at the media briefing on COVID-19, WHO Director General said at least 23 countries from all 6 WHO regions have now reported cases of Omicron, and the agency expects the number to grow. The World Health Organization has called on all countries to take rational, proportional risk reduction measures in keeping with the international health regulations. WHO DG says that countries must not forget that they are already dealing with a highly transmissible and dangerous variant, the Delta variant, which currently accounts for almost all cases globally. The World Health Organization expects to have more information about the transmissibility of the new Omicron variant of the coronavirus within days. Vaccine developers have said it will take about 2 weeks to assess whether their shots are effectively against it. According to WHO, a possible scenario was that new variant, which was first reported in South Africa, may be more transmissible than the dominant Delta variant. Also, the existing COVID-19 vaccines will work against the variant. WHO technical lead on COVID-19, Maria van Kerkhove, warned that travel bans prevented South Africa to ship samples of Omicron variant out of the country.
Travel bans that have been imposed by South Africa have caused some challenges for those samples to actually be shipped out of the country. So there are other implications for these travel bans that are out there. We're finding a way, they're finding a way to be able to share those materials so that studies can be done. Unfortunately, or fortunately, but unfortunately, the virus passes in people. And the virus is in 23 countries now. And so that virus is available to many already. But travel bans do have a negative impact on the ability to ship samples out of a country.
The United States on Wednesday identified its first known case of Omicron discovered in a fully vaccinated patient who traveled to South Africa as scientists continue to study the risks the new COVID variant could pose. Public health officials said that the infected person, who had mild symptoms, returned to the United States from South Africa on November 22nd and tested positive 7 days later. The U.S. has barred nearly all foreigners who have been in one of the 8 southern African countries.
In the city and county of San Francisco, under the University of California, San Francisco, and our partnership with the Department of Public Health, using the latest of technology, we have discovered our first case, not only here in San Francisco, but the entire country.
And briefing the media further, top U.S. infectious disease expert Anthony Fauci said that the first U.S. case of the Omicron variant of COVID-19 has been detected in California, and the individual in question has returned from South Africa on the 22nd of November and tested positive 7 days later. He said the person who was fully vaccinated against COVID-19 but had not had a booster shot had mild symptoms. Fauci also said that Omicron might elude some vaccine protection. The person is in self-quarantine and all of the patient's close contacts have tested negative.
The California and San Francisco Departments of Public Health and the CDC have confirmed that a recent case of COVID-19 among an individual in California was caused by the Omicron variant. Genomic sequencing was conducted at the University of California at San Francisco, and the sequence was confirmed at the CDC as being consistent with the Omicron variant.
Several thousand Haitian migrants set up a camp outside the stadium in the southern Mexican city of Tapachula, pleading to be transferred to other states and given authorization to travel freely through Mexico and seek employment. Last week, Mexican officials began moving hundreds of migrants to other states after they endured lengthy waits for asylums and visa requests in Tapachula in Chiapas state, aiming to head off migrant caravans heading north to the U.S. border. Yet thousands more people remain in limbo in Tapachula, a city located near Mexico's southern border with Guatemala. And now it's time to take a look at some what's making news in the world of sports. And my colleague Smriti joins us for more on that. Smriti, over to you.
Thank you, Amrit. Good afternoon, and you're watching Sports Prime. First up, in the run-up to the Paris Olympics 2024, Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur has now announced the inclusion of 7 more top international athletes to Mission Olympic Cell. And this includes Baichung Bhutia, Anju Bobby George, Sardar Singh, Anjali Bhagwat, Viren Raskinha, Monalisa Barua Mehta and Trupti Burgunde. Now, the minister announced the names via Twitter, saying, "We are making India's flag of India prep stronger for the Paris Olympics 2024. Happy to announce and welcome 7 more top international athletes to the Mission Olympic Cell. Their experience will add richly towards creating an athlete-centric ecosystem at the highest level." Now in cricket, India and New Zealand are set to lock horns in the second and the final decider test of the ongoing test series. The India versus New Zealand second test begins on December 3rd at Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. The series is levelled currently at 0-0 after the first test ended in a draw, and Virat Kohli will return to lead India in the second test, posing a welcome selection dilemma for the host. The Mumbai clash will mark Kohli's return after he stepped down as 2020 captain at the end of the World Cup last month and took a short break. Shreyas Iyer's 105 and 65 in his debut test, which ended in a draw in Kanpur against the Black Caps, has made it tough for Indian selectors to decide on their final 11. Ajinkya Rahane, who led India in the first test of the 2-match series, has struggled to score runs and averaged under 20 across 12 matches this year. Now, top-order batsman Cheteshwar Pujara has made promising starts but failed to convert them into bigger scores. New Zealand, the World Test champions after beating India in the title clash in June, denied the hosts a win in an enthralling 5 days of play in the opening match. The final pairing of Rachin Ravindra and Ejaz Patel survived in dimming light as gutsy New Zealand held on for a memorable draw. Now, the Women's Tennis Association, WTA, has decided to suspend all its tournaments in China due to the concerns about the safety of former doubles world #1 Peng Shuai. WTA Chief Executive Steve Simon said in a statement, "How can I ask to compete there when Peng Shuai is not allowed to communicate freely?" It also said that Shuai has been pressured to deny the allegations of sexual assault, and he said that he is very worried in the view of the present situation. Significantly, a politician was accused of sexual abuse by China's star female tennis player and former Wimbledon champion Peng Shuai. Now moving on to soccer, Manchester City's impressive journey in the English Premier League continues. The team registered its 4th consecutive win in the league. Man City managed to beat Aston Villa's team 2-1 in Wednesday's match. Ruben Dias and Bernardo Silva scored 1 goal each for Manchester City. Watkins scored the only goal for Aston Villa in the 47th minute of the game. And Liverpool's strong performance in the English Premier League continues. The team defeated Everton's team 4-1 in the match played on Wednesday. Mohamed Salah's contribution in this Liverpool victory was important, who scored 2 goals in the match. Salah scored in the 19th and the 64th minutes of the game, and Liverpool took hold of early in the match, with Henderson scoring the first goal in the 9th minute of the game. Liverpool's team is currently 3rd in the points table and just 2 points behind the top-ranked team, Chelsea. And that's all we have for you in Sports Prime for now. Back to you, Amrit.
Well, thank you, Smriti, for that. And now it's time to move on to our next segment, which we call Life Prime. The Armed Forces Flag Day will be observed on December 7th. The Armed Forces Flag Day, or the Flag Day of India, is a day dedicated to India towards collection of funds from the people of India for the welfare of the Indian Armed Forces personnel. It has been observed annually in India on December 7th since 1949. Actor Amitabh Bachchan, in a video message, asked people to commemorate the day by paying their respective tributes to the forces.
Namaskar, this is Amitabh Bachchan. On the occasion of the Armed Forces Flag Day, I send my greetings and my salutations. He loves his country best who strives to make it best. We have not seen and probably will never know the true level of sacrifice of our veterans. A soldier is the army, and no army is better than its soldiers. He or she is also a citizen. The highest obligation and privilege of citizenship is that of bearing arms for one's country. It takes a great amount of courage and sacrifice to do what they do. Their sacrifice and triumphs and large hearts change the course of our history. As a civilian, we owe an unpayable debt to all our military and armed forces and their families. The least we can do for our military men and women is to honor and be thankful for their unselfish deeds. On the occasion of the Armed Forces Flag Day, we honor with great pride the sacrifice of the defense forces, who valiantly fight to safeguard our borders. They treasure a higher intrinsic value received from a sense of accomplishment, of serving our nation in the best manner known. On this Memorial Day, I am reminded of a famous quote. Who kept the faith and fought the fight? The glory theirs, the duty ours. With utmost respect, I bow down to these stalwarts. Jai Hind.
And we're talking about Rockefeller now. Crowds returned to New York City's Midtown Manhattan on Wednesday for the 89th annual lighting of the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, officially kicking off the holiday season in usual fashion. This year's event was open to general public, in contrast to last year's gathering that saw strict COVID-19 restrictions as virus infection cases soared.
To the world.
Well, that's it then in Midday Prime. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Namaskar.